Hey everyone, my name is Jessie and I'm a content creator here at Plaid, and welcome to Let's Paint Live, our monthly paint night where we teach you to paint a full painting in just about an hour. So we are live in the studio tonight and we will be painting these two paintings that I've called Floral Love. So it's kind of fun, just in time for Valentine's Day. It's a great way to spend the evening with your Valentine or your Galentine, or to give as a gift. It's just two little twin paintings tonight. So a really fun project to do together virtually or at home. Okay, so I'm gonna let you guys know what supplies we'll need to get started. Okay, so unlike free to use that. You can totally scale these paintings up. It might take you a little bit longer to paint, but if you don't have the mini ones, you can make these paintings bigger. Just make it, just sort of scale it to proportion. I've also got my 10-piece folk art variety set here. So I'm going to be using my 3/4 inch flat brush. I've got my number 6 round brush, my number 12 flat, and then I also have my number 10 flat. So anything that's similar to these brushes will be totally fine for this painting. As usual, I have my palette paper, I have my paper towels, and a water basin to clean my brushes. And then of course we'll be using our favorite folk art acrylic paints. And the colors we have tonight are Berry Wine, which is a really pretty sort of maroon burgundy color. We've got Apple Red, but any red will do, it's just a nice bright red. We've got Baby Pink. So if you don't have Baby Pink, you can mix some white and red to get this color. It's just a nice, just like the title, Baby Pink. We've got Wicker White, so any white acrylic paint is fine. We have Daffodil Yellow, which is just a nice, bright, medium yellow color. We have Aqua, which is this pretty bluish green. And then last but not least, we have Thicket. So this is a nice, deep, dark, sort of hunter green color. Before we get started, I want to let you guys know we've had Lindsay in the studio here, so we are live in the studio, so if you have questions or comments, or just want to say hello, make sure to pop those in the comments, and Lindsay can read me any questions out loud. So yeah, so let's go ahead and get started.
Well, before we get started,
Okay.
everyone wants to know if your puppy is better.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. My puppy is better. I missed Monday night's paint night on Michael's website because my puppy had kennel cough, but it's because he goes to daycare. He got vaccinated for it, but it's a whole thing. But he got medicine, and he's feeling much better already, so thank you for asking.
Yay, we're so glad.
Yes, me too. Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to be doing some mixing. So tonight we're actually doing a lot of mixing. As you can see here, the colors we have in our palette really look very different from the ones in the final paintings. So that's because, like I said, we'll be doing lots of mixing, so it's great. It's a great way to learn. So the first color we need is going to be Aqua. So I'm going to put a little bit of Aqua on my palette. Oops. And then I'm also going to grab some Thicket. And then a little bit of Wicker White. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my 3/4 inch flat brush. So anything similar to this is fine. And I'm going to start with 1 part Aqua and 1 part Thicket. And we're hoping for a nice sort of deep greenish, sort of a peacock color. Maybe a little bit more Thicket. We want it to be a little greener. What we're mixing right now is the background for this rose painting, for the green painting. So that's getting really close there. I like that color. I'm going to go ahead and add a tiny touch of white. You can see here I have just a touch on my brush, hardly any. I just want to lighten it up just a little bit so we can see that beautiful color better. I'm going to add a little bit more. And it's always better when you're mixing colors to add just a little bit at a time, so you can kind of get an idea. If you start just globbing tons of paints on top of each other and you don't like the results, you're just wasting paint at that point. So it's good to add just little bits of each color at a time if you're not really sure what the exact combination is going to be. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this color we just mixed, which again was Aqua, Thicket, and Wicker White. And I'm just going to base coat this canvas right here. Now you have this really pretty teal color. I love the way this color looks. Really fun, sort of springy garden color.
And if people don't have the exact size canvas, they can use any size canvas.
Totally.
Right?
You can use any size canvas. You can use, if you have a different shape, if you have like rectangles instead, you can just sort of change the layout of the painting a little bit. You can still paint the rose and the bouquet, maybe paint the bouquet longer, you know, taller. Yeah, absolutely. If you have like a larger painting, if you have like a 10 by 10 canvas or something, just make your painting bigger. You can even just select one of the designs for tonight if you're painting along, just for time's sake, but
or you
yeah.
can even use different colors if that's what you can
Yeah.
find.
Whatever you guys have at home. I know it's a little bit tricky to get some craft supplies right now. I know some people are having a hard time still. So whatever you have in your sort of, you know, arsenal at home, your arsenal of craft supplies, please feel free to use it. If you want to do a red rose or a white rose, by all means do that. We just love that you're painting along with us, hopefully taking some time for yourself. But yeah, don't stress about the supplies for sure. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush off. And I also want to say we're going to be switching back and forth between canvases just because they're both tiny and they really have a very similar palette. So we're going to be kind of going back and forth. As one's drying, we'll be working on the other one. If you've ever joined us for any of our December editions of Let's Paint Live, we do this with ornaments, so it's going to be a little bit like that. But I'll be sure to be very clear which painting we are currently working on so you guys don't get confused. Okay. So now we're going to mix this really pretty sort of mauve color. So to do that, I'm going to grab some baby pink. And just a reminder, if you don't have baby pink, you can mix wicker white and your apple red together. So I would do mostly wicker white with a touch of apple red, and you should get something similar to baby pink. So hopefully you have white and red at home. Those are pretty common. I'm going to put a little bit of the baby pink on my palette. And I'm also going to grab some of my berry wine. So if you don't have berry wine at home, what you can do is mix apple red with navy. Hopefully you have like a nice dark navy, and that will get you a very similar color to this one. Put a little bit of that as well. This is a really pretty color. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my 3/4 inch flat again, and I'm going to start by mixing 1 part baby pink and 1 part berry wine. And like I said, we're looking for that really pretty mauve color. I'm obsessed with mauve. It's like one of my current favorite colors.
It's really pretty and very trendy.
It's very trendy, isn't it? I really want to paint a room that color, but I don't think my husband would like a pink room. I try to be considerate of his opinions.
You're so nice.
I try to be, you know. It's still new, so I'll give it a year before I start just overriding everything. Okay, so now I kind of like that color. I'm going to add a little bit more of the berry wine. I think that's good. And you can, you know, use your own discretion. If you want yours to be a little bit darker or a little bit lighter, you can totally change this up as you're going. You know, you can start with mine as sort of a general template for what to do, and then do whatever you want. It's your painting, so whatever you would like to see, make sure you do it that way. It doesn't have to be just like mine, although it's welcome to be. You're welcome to just follow along. All right, so you can, I was just pressing some water out of my brush there. I realized as I was mixing, I didn't get all the water out, and I don't want my brush to be so wet. So I'm gonna go ahead and rinse it off actually. I try whenever I'm mixing with my brushes to make sure to always rinse my brush after I'm done mixing before I actually put it onto my canvas, because it just puts way too much paint in your bristles, and it's hard to control the paint the way it goes on your canvas when you have that much paint. It gets sort of moppy, and you just want to have a little more control than that. So now we are just using this pretty mauve color we just mixed with baby pink and berry wine. I somehow have already run out. We're just base coating our second canvas with this pretty mauve color.
And Jody wants to know if the class is being recorded so that everyone can watch later, and the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch this on Facebook or YouTube after the live ends. You can watch it on Facebook pretty much immediately after the live ends.
Yeah, it's really right after it's over.
But then it'll take about a day for us to get it on YouTube, but you will be able to access it.
Yeah, totally. And I really do recommend, I know Andy Jones always recommends this for his classes too. I think it's good to just sort of watch live, and so you can still interact, you can ask questions, and make sure you understand as the instructor is going, and then go back later and paint it at your own pace, where you can rewind or pause as you need to. When I'm taking classes online, when I'm watching tutorials on YouTube or wherever, that's the way I like to do it. I like to sort of participate live if it's alive. And so I can ask questions and really focus on what the instructor is doing and make sure I understand, and then go back on my own time and make the project.
That's very smart, and that's actually how I like to watch your paintings.
Well, thank you, Lindsay.
Because me and my daughter Reagan go back and we paint your paintings.
I love it.
So yes, we watch them after the live. So
Lindsay's daughter Reagan is a very talented painter, as is Lindsay.
So sweet.
Hey, Reagan.
I hope she's watching.
If
I
you're
told her to
watching.
watch. Hey, Reagan.
All right, guys. So now that this is drying, we're going to go back and we're going to work on the green. If your green canvas is not completely dry, if you have a hair dryer nearby, feel free to use that. Mine's pretty dry though, so I'm going to continue going. All right, so we are going to start mixing some of these really pretty greens that we have around here. So they're kind of like almost pastel. You've got some dark tones going on, just very springy and very loose. That's going to be the whole idea for this painting, is loose, loose, loose. You can see nothing is going to be sketched out. Nothing is going to be really, painted very cleanly, or no really like strong, hard lines. We just want it to be sort of these beautiful shapes that we make with our brush to sort of imply flowers. And it may be kind of confusing now, but you'll see what I mean as we continue painting. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and grab my number 6 round brush, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of aqua and a touch of thicket and then some white. I'm going to grab a little more thicket. I want it to be a little greener. We're going for sort of a light green here. And then I'm going to grab a bunch more white. And you can see I kind of eyeball it when I'm mixing. I try to give you guys some solid ratios so you can follow along at home, but you really just need to, it takes a lot of practice to know what colors need to be added to a mixture of paint in order to get the color that you're wanting, that you have in mind. So I want it lighter, that's why I'm continuing to add white. I'm just making it lighter and lighter as I'm mixing to get that color that I'm looking for. I want it to be a little greener. I'm going to put some more thicket. So if I want it to be sort of a cooler color, I'll add aqua. If I want it to be greener, I'll add thicket. And then if I want it to be lighter, I will add white. Okay, so I like that color. It's a nice sort of pastel-y green color. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush off because I've been mixing with it. Oops.
We have a lot of people watching with us tonight.
Awesome.
So
welcome, guys.
Yay.
I'm glad you're here. Okay, so I'm going to hang on to my number 6 round brush. I did go ahead and rinse it off to get that paint off so we can kind of start fresh, but I'm going to hang on to this brush. And like I said, we're going to start sort of putting in some of these leaf shapes. So to start, what we're going to do is, keeping in mind where the roses will be, I'm going to get a little bit of this green mixture on the tip of my brush. And I'm sort of imagining that there's sort of like a branch here maybe that the flower's kind of growing out of, or stem, I guess, going that way. So I'm just going to do some lines. I'm going to do a little line here going from the bottom, and then almost where it would connect at the top. And I'm not connecting them in the middle because the rose is going to be there, so you won't see it anyway. So I'm just sort of saving myself that time of having that to dry and cover up. So now I'm just very loosely sketching this in. I'm going to pick up some more paint on my brush, and I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to smoosh my brush down and pull up to do some very loose leaves. And I have a good bit of paint on my brush. I have more paint on my brush than I normally do when I'm painting, and that's because I really want this loose, sort of almost textured look. So I'm just sort of adding in some leaves, some coming off the branch, and you can see I'm pressing down, I'm putting pressure and then pulling up to get a thinner tip. And I'm kind of just putting in some leaves, just sort of start filling it in. We can add some more greens too in a minute, but keeping in mind where my roses will be. I don't need to put any leaves there because we're going to paint the roses in there. So sort of adding some leaves in. And then I'm going to continue by picking up some other colors on my brush. So I'm going to pick up some thicket. I haven't washed my brush off. It still has that light green. I'm going to pick up the thicket, and I'm going to start adding some of that into, just to give my leaves some variety. We don't want them all to be the same green. To add some darkness in some areas, you can do more or less thicket. Like I said, we just want lots of variety, so it looks just how leaves would be in nature. And again, I'm pressing down and pulling up and sort of get this very loose leaf shape.
We have people checking in from all over the United States. Wow. And from several different countries.
Cool.
So we're excited to have you guys with us.
Hey guys, yeah, welcome. Welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, and it's going to be really hard. I know a lot of you out there, if you're painters, you are probably perfectionists and you want everything to look perfect. And these are not looking super leafy right now. They're looking very loose, and I'm the same way. I'm a perfectionist. I'm kind of a realist. I have trouble painting loosely sometimes. So it's very hard for me not to go back and fix all these leaves and make them look like leaves, make them perfect leaf shapes. But I'm going to leave it because that's the look I want for this painting. I want this painting to be really loose and soft. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush off. I had a lot of paint in there. And we're going to move over to this canvas now. So while that one's drying, we're going to do some of the green on this one. So this, of course, is more of a bouquet we've got going on here, still keeping in mind that it's still very loose. I have my number 6 round brush, and I'm going to pick up that light green that I was just using, the same color. But I don't want as much. I'm just putting a little bit on the very tip of my brush because we're not going to be doing sort of that smushing sort of technique right now. We're going to paint sort of the stems that are going to go up. And you can hardly see them because there's a lot of shapes and colors on top of them. But we're just going to paint some sort of very loose. I'm going to start here towards the bottom. Thin lines going up, keeping in mind sort of that bouquet shape, but keeping it very loose. I'm just using the very tip of my brush to paint sort of loosely, and of course they would sort of meet in the middle where it's bunched together, and they would come down at the bottom.
And Ronnie is loving how you can make any color with mixing the paint. Mm-hmm. And she says it helps to see it on screen, and it makes it easier to understand.
Awesome! I'm so glad to hear that. Color mixing can be super intimidating, and I've been painting all my life, so of course with experience, comes knowledge. It's like almost muscle memory. Like you just know what color to add. It's sort of instinct at this point. But it really just does take practice, and it's very simple. Once you kind of get the basics of it, it's very simple to do. So I'm glad that you feel like you're learning. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up some of my thicket, just kind of how we did over here, and I'm going to loosely add some of this darkness in there too, again, just to give it variety so that it looks a little bit more real. So again, I'm keeping it super loose. I'm not even really finishing my brush strokes sometimes. It's so loose.
And we have a few people who are new painters
with
us
great.
Tonight. So
this will be great for you.
Yes, I would like to encourage you, please paint along with Jessie. This is a great way to get started.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. This is a really fun way to start too.
Yes.
Okay, so now that we have our stems painted in, now we're going to do some of the leaf smushing. Just how we kind of painted these leaves here, very loosely. We're going to do the same thing to paint in some of these leaves here on our stems. But of course, it's going to be a little more structured this time because we do want to keep that bouquet shape. So we're going to try to focus on them coming out of the stems. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up some of this light green mixture and do the same sort of just smooshing technique going right out of the stems to create some green in our bouquet. That's going to be leaves for this bouquet of flowers. You can do as many or as few as you want. It's totally up to you. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and add some of the thicket in, just like we did before, to give it some variety.
Eric says, my mom told me about your page, and it has helped me to come up with ideas for when I do paint.
Oh, very cool.
Yay.
Welcome. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yes.
And if you guys aren't already members of our Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group, make sure you go ahead and join. So I have a feeling a lot of you probably came from that group, and that's how you knew about this event. But the group is called Let's Paint with Plaid, and it's right on Facebook. Just search it in the search bar. And it's just an amazing group of people, painters, artists, new beginner painters, people who have tons of experience, decades of experience, and everyone's on there just sort of encouraging each other and learning from each other, posting their work and challenging each other sometimes. So whether this is your first painting ever or you've been painting for many, many years, check out that group because there's a lot of awesome people on there. Andy Jones is part of that group, Priscilla Hauser, Donna Dewberry, myself, Lindsay's a member of the group. So like I said, no matter what your experience level, make sure to check out that Facebook group because it's a lot of fun and everybody's super nice. So make sure to check that out after this event.
Yes, and when you post your painting, make sure to hashtag Let's Paint Challenge with Let's Paint Challenge, no spaces, no apostrophes. So we can see what you're painting, because we love to see what you're painting.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to start painting our roses over here. So we have these pretty sort of, again, super loose rose shapes here, and we're going to start mixing the colors for that. So I'm going to grab my number 10 flat brush. So this is just a very small flat brush. Anything similar to this is fine. And I'm actually going to put some daffodil yellow onto my palette. Just a little bit, we don't need much of this. And I'm going to mix baby pink, oops, I got the wrong brush. I'm going to mix baby pink with daffodil yellow, just a touch of yellow, not very much at all. So mostly baby pink with just the tiniest touch of daffodil yellow. And what we're looking for is this pretty sort of peachy coral color. See, look, I put barely any yellow and it turned very orange. So I'm going to go back and grab some more baby pink. So again, mostly baby pink with just a touch of yellow.
And Betty Ann would like to know, do you have to dry after each coat of paint?
It's kind of up to you. So we're kind of, you don't really want to always paint wet on wet. So for example, I wouldn't want to paint on the base coat right away because sometimes it just tends to pull the paint back up. But we're kind of avoiding the areas that have wet paint. So I feel like for this one, it's okay. My leaves are not completely dry, as you can see, but we're not going to be painting on top of those. We're going to be painting in a different area. So that's why we're kind of just full steam ahead. We're not drying in between. But if you feel like your painting is super wet and you're a little bit worried about going back over it, go ahead and just hit it with a hairdryer or stick it in front of a fan for a minute or two, and that will definitely help. Okay, so I got my brush nice and clean. I want to make sure I get all the water out. I never want to have too much water in my brush. And we are going to start with this pretty peachy color. You can see this, right, Lindsay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. This pretty peachy color, I'm just putting a little bit on the tip of my brush. And sort of carefully, we're going to keep in mind that we want this to be sort of a wide circle. It's not a perfect circle. It's kind of oblong. It's kind of horizontal. We're going to start doing some sort of C shapes. So I'll show you what I mean here. I'm going to start on the left, and I'm going to do a C shape there. We're just going to kind of outline where we want this to be. And I'll start over here, do a C shape here, and then continuing that sort of around, just to sort of lay out where we want this rose to be. So that looks good. I like that shape. I'm going to go ahead and add the small one in too. Again, just sort of laying out, just sort of placing where it's going to be in our painting. Now you can decide now if you want it bigger or smaller. It's a little bit easier to correct as opposed to once you started painting in all the details. So still hanging on to my number 10 flat. And I've got this pretty peach color we just mixed. I'm going to continue adding C shapes all the way around the center of the flower. And of course, these are going to be our petals. So you can see I'm not turning the direction of my brush at all. I'm just doing C shapes and I'm pressing down as I do it. And we're going to do this until we've got the flower almost filled in. Just adding petals. I'm not really going in order. I'm not necessarily layering them super well. I'm just filling it up with C shapes going in a circular motion. I'll do the same thing for this little guy here. You can see I just really did quick little brush strokes to get those little petals in. Okay, so give you guys just a minute to catch up on that one.
And as simple as this looks, this is really a technical thing, you know, painting C strokes. It's very fine art.
Yeah, so absolutely. There's a lot of there's a lot of technique in these paintings. My biggest struggle when I do paintings like this, they're quick and they're fun, but I'm really bad at painting loosely. I just want everything to be really tight and everything to be super highly rendered, but that's not what this is. I love the way the artwork looks like this, so I kind of have to like force myself to paint loosely because I love the way it looks when you're done. Okay.
Well, you're doing a great job. I love what you're doing.
Thanks, Lindsay. Okay, cool. So now, kind of similar to how we did the leaves, I haven't cleaned my brush off. We're gonna go and we're gonna pick up a little bit of other colors. So you can see here, I have the tiniest bit of berry wine on the tip of my brush. So just take a look up, the tiniest bit of berry wine, and I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna add some of that to the center area. Just picking up the teeniest bit. You can even pick up some more peach if you need to with the berry wine. Again, giving it variety. So I'm focusing on the green areas because I definitely want to get those covered up. I don't want to see any green through my flower. Of course, that's not how it would be in real life. And I'm kind of putting some in, you can add a little bit to the edges just for variety's sake, but I'm kind of focusing this darkness in the center of my flower.
Anne says loose is hard for her too. I hope I can do it. You can do it, Anne.
You can absolutely do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
We believe in you.
Definitely, definitely. All right, so I just added a little bit of that berry wine in there, and I'm going to pick up some white now. And I'm going to do the same thing with white. And I'm going to continue to pick up peach as I go. So I picked up white and peach. I didn't mix it on my palette. I just went ahead and picked it up together on my brush. You can see you even got some berry wine going back in there, and it's blending really beautifully just in these brush strokes without really having to try. They're just blending together sort of on their own within your brush. And pick up some more white. And if you want it to be a little bit darker, add more berry wine. If you want it to be a lighter flower, add more white. And you don't want to overwork it. You need to kind of find a good place to stop. And I think I'm going to actually stop right there. Actually, I'm going to continue with my little guy. Same thing. Add in some berry wine. Add in a little bit of white. And picking up peach as I need it. So I'm going to stop there. I'm happy with that. And I'm going to wipe off my brush and my paper towel. I'm not putting it in water, just my paper towel. And I'm going to pick up some more berry wine because as you can see here, we want it to look like the flower has some shape. Right now it's kind of looking like a little bit of a pink cloud, but we want to, the eye to see that it's sort of raised on the edges where the petals are coming out and it's deep in the middle, just how a flower is. So that's where we're going to put some darkness back into the middle. So pick up a little more berry wine and just dab it ever so gently in the center, and that just sort of makes your eye realize that there's depth in this flower. And the same thing for this little guy. And it really helps make the flower look a little more dimensional. Okay. So still haven't cleaned my brush off. I still have all this paint in my brush, my number 10 flat. I am wiping off excess paint onto my paper towel as I go. But what we're gonna do now is you can see we have some like little buds around here, like little baby flowers that are about to grow. We're gonna add those in. So using the same pinks, just sort of whatever pink you prefer, if you like the berry wine best or if you like the peach best, we're just sort of adding in these little spots, just little tiny quick brush strokes around to look like little flower buds growing in.
Jill wants to know, she tuned in late, can you rename the greens that you use?
Sure. So this one right here is going to be aqua, and then I've got thicket.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so that's kind of it for this painting. You can always go back and do a little bit of, back and forth. You can add some more leaves. It kind of turned out that this one had more leaves than this one, but two paintings are ever going to be exactly the same. But yeah, so that's kind of it for our green painting.
And your mom has tuned in. Hi, Jessie's mom.
Hello, hi, Mom. I love that. Okay, my mom's birthday was on Monday, so happy belated birthday. I was supposed to be there to wish her happy birthday on the Michaels paint night, but I was home with Gus, so I promised to give her a shout out. Happy birthday, Mom. She turned 60. It was a big one.
Happy birthday.
Okay, cool. Okay, so for the purple painter, we're going to move right along. So like I said, this is kind of done. We're going to let it dry. Like I said, you can always go back, and if you wanted to, add another leaf here or there, you can absolutely do that. It's totally up to you. If you feel like you want to fill it in a little bit more, you can absolutely go back and do that and continue layering. I just really recommend that you don't overwork it because that's really easy to do in a painting like this. The more you paint it, sometimes it just tends to get too busy and it can even get muddy, so it's best to just let it be. Okay, so I'm rinsing my brush off, and I'm going to get a fresh paper towel because this one's getting a little bit dirty.
Everyone's shouting out happy birthday to your mom.
Awesome.
Yay. Maha says, my mom is going to be 60 next month too.
Oh, cool. Happy birthday to her. All right, so now for the little purple painting. So we're going to continue using this pretty peach color that we mixed. Like I said, they're very similar color palettes. That's why they go so nicely together. You can hang them on your wall in a little gallery wall. We actually just posted, I think today on our social channels, a really cute Valentine's Day gallery wall that we made, and these two paintings were included in it. So it's just really fun. It doesn't have to be seasonal, of course. It doesn't have to be for Valentine's Day. It's just beautiful florals, but just kind of something fun for your home. But like I said, we're going to continue using the little coral we've made. So I'm going to grab some more baby pink and a touch of yellow because I just need to mix a little bit more to get this nice peachy color. And grab some more pink. And then again, I'm gonna rinse my brush off because I have way too much painted after mixing. And again, I still have my number 10 flat brush. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but I'm still hanging on to this guy for now. I'm gonna pick up some of my peach color with a clean brush, and we're gonna start adding in some of these larger flowers. So on this one, I did kind of 3, and the way I painted that is, I'll show you right now. I kind of just went like this, oops. I did a little C shape going down, similar to how we did our petals, and then I did a couple coming out of that. So super simple. We're gonna go back and add a little bit more detail to that, but that's sort of the base of those shapes. Just a very simple C shape, and then a couple of flowers coming out of that. And you can do as many of these as you want. You can see I only have 3 here. I added some little ones later. But yeah, totally up to you how many flowers, how full you want your bouquet to be. I'm gonna add 5, I think, this time. And with this color still, I'm gonna add more little buds, just kind of how we did here. I'm gonna add a few buds here and there because I want it to be nice and full. I don't wanna have a sparse bouquet. So I'm going to wipe my brush off a little. I'm not necessarily gonna rinse it, I'm just gonna wipe it off. And I'm gonna pick up a little bit of my berry wine, doing sort of the similar thing that we did with that larger flower, just small. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna add some berry wine to the bottom of these flowers to kind of make it look like maybe there's a shadow at the bottom, just to kind of give it a little bit of dimension. Just very loosely, you kind of want it to blend in. It's good to do it while it's still wet. And you can even add some dimension to your little buds here. And then you can even mix another color. So I'm gonna grab some berry wine and some pink, sort of a mauve-y color, and you can even add that in there as well. Add a touch of yellow if you want. Again, just the more colors you add into the shapes, the more realistic it'll look, the more dimensional it'll look. You can see I'm just sort of dabbing around, adding some more colors very loosely still, and I'm gonna wipe my brush off. So now I'm gonna pick up some more berry wine. I'm gonna do some of these darker flowers. So all those are just sort of dabs, so I'll show you what I mean. I did a few dabs in sort of a flower shape, if you will, and sort of like a little round area. And I just did that in a few areas just to give it some, you know, diversity, really. We don't want it to just all be the same kind of flower. We want to have, of course, most bouquets, when they're beautifully arranged, they have several different kinds of flowers in them. So that's kind of the look we're going for. So I'm going to rinse my brush off.
And let us know if you're going to paint this for your Valentine or your Galentine.
Yes.
Or for yourself. Because
absolutely.
You should totally paint something for yourself, always.
I love that idea. It's nice to just sort of take some time to yourself, just kind of turn your brain off for a little bit, just kind of relax for, you know, just an hour this week. But yeah, just take some time for yourself. I think that's really important, especially these days.
Yeah, let us know how you're painting.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what you're up to tonight. Okay, so you can see we're kind of moving right along. We're kind of almost finishing up. We still have a few details to add, but we're kind of coming towards the end here. You can see how super quick and simple these paintings are. So again, I'm actually going to grab a new brush. I'm going to pick up my number 6 round brush, and I'm going to pick up the tiniest bit of yellow, very little. You can see here I barely have any. We don't want it to be super stark on here because we don't really have yellow in this palette. But I am going to add the tiniest bit of yellow to the tops of some of these flowers just to give it some brightness, to make it look maybe the sun is shining on this bouquet of flowers, just to sort of brighten it up, make it look super springy. Just little dabs with the tip of my brush. Okay, and then you can even add some, I have some little, you know, some more flower shapes here. We can go back and add those. Again, just trying to give the painting some variety, make the bouquet look very diverse. So I'm going to add some little spots in there, some spots in here. Just another kind of, maybe this is baby's breath. Just another kind of little flowery shape to go in our bouquet and make it look really full and pretty. Awesome. All right. So now, as you can see here, we have this really like sweet little ribbon that's tying our bouquet together. That's kind of what's keeping them all together right here. So I'm gonna pick up some, still have my number 6 round brush. I just rinsed it off. And I'm gonna pick up some berry wine. And very loosely, we're gonna do a bow shape. So we don't want it to be perfect. We want it to look like it's maybe like a little bit wrinkled, or it's, you know, a very loose bow laying flat. But just a very loose, push down sort of bow shape. We want it to be a little bit irregular to kind of go with the look of this painting. And then, of course, do the little strings coming from the bottom. And you can even add a little bit of bulk to the center if you want to make it look like your bow is tied.
Maha would like to know, how long does the paint stay wet on your palette?
It stays wet for a good bit. It kind of depends on like the climate. I know that sounds kind of weird, but and the time of year. So my paint is all staying pretty wet. When it's thin like this, of course, it dries fast. But of course, if it's thicker, it stays wet for much longer. So in the, you know, in the span of doing a painting, it should stay wet really nicely. If I were to come back to this tomorrow, it would be dried solid. And that's because acrylic is water-based. And so when all the water evaporates out of it, then the paint is dry. As opposed to maybe like oil paints, if that's what you're used to using, you would come back tomorrow and it would still be just as wet as the day before. And that's because the oil is not evaporating. So yeah, it kind of works for like one sitting, and that's why I always recommend to just add as much paint as you need to, because it'll get wasted, unless you can add it back to the bottle somehow, but that's kind of tough.
And just so everyone knows, as soon as the video's over, it will be available on Facebook.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
And then we will try to post it on YouTube within the next few days. But you can access it so you can paint along with Jessie. Even if you can't keep up, you can paint along tomorrow, the next day, whenever you're free.
Yeah, totally. And we also have a great library. We've been doing our Let's Paint Lives monthly for over 2 years now. So we have a Let's Paint Live for every single month. So you can go back. We've got tons of different kinds of florals. We've got landscapes. We've got animals. We've got beach scenes. But whatever you want to paint, I'm sure there's something there for you to learn from. And they're all very beginner friendly. They're all really great for people who are just starting out painting. They're super easy to follow. So make sure you guys check out that library. Again, that's on our Facebook group as well, and on our YouTube channel. So go back and watch those videos, and you can paint all the paintings. You can do a whole gallery wall of Let's Paint Live paintings. Okay, guys, so it's done. I know it was a little bit anticlimactic because I was chatting, but that was the last step of our painting, that our little bow we did. So like I said, feel free to go back and add more details if you want to make yours full. I always say you should definitely sign your painting because it's a beautiful work of art that you did. So I like to put my initials, especially on tinier paintings like this, just so I don't distract from the painting itself. But yeah, make sure you sign your painting, and I will go ahead in just a minute debut what we'll be doing for our March Let's Paint Live, which is a really fun one. So I'll kind of slide this over. We're going to do front view for this one.
Okay.
So this is a really fun glass painting we'll be doing next month. So you can see super bright florals. It's really fun for like spring and summer coming up, and it's a little bit different than the way we normally paint for our Let's Paint Lives, but it's still super simple. So this, just for a little bit of instruction, because it's a different surface than we normally paint on, this is a 2-paned glass frame. So this particular one opens up, so you can see it's going to be kind of like layers of painting, which is super fun. I can't wait to show you guys how to do this. But yeah, it's layers of painting. And this is kind of a specific surface that I found at my craft store, but there's a lot of options you can buy that will be the exact same thing and you'll get the same results. So I'll show you here. I found this frame at the craft store. So this is one of those frames that opens up like this and kind of sits on your dresser or your end table or whatever it is that you are putting it on. But when you close it, you get that double pane of glass, so you can do the layering. You can open it up and paint it and close it and have that layered look just like the painting for next month. Another one too, this is even simpler, which I know is easy for everyone to find. It's just one of these floating picture frames. So this has 2 panes of glass sort of slid into it, and that's what the picture is pressed between. So you just pull the panes of glass out and paint on those. And these are super easy to find. They're super inexpensive. You probably even have some at home that maybe you're wanting to refresh or you have it in storage. I know I have tons of these floating frames floating around my house. But yeah, I just want to make sure you guys have a good idea of what surface you can use for our upcoming painting because, again, it's not a canvas, so it's a little different than we normally do. But yes, be on the lookout for that event. Make sure you RSVP so you can remember. And just as a reminder, make sure to join our Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group. We'd love to see these paintings in here. When you share your work on Facebook or Instagram, please hashtag PlaidCrafts so that we can see all of your beautiful paintings. And we will see you guys next month for Let's Paint Live.